Do you feel exhausted from within? Do you feel exhausted from within, as if everything in life demands a reaction from you? There are days when even breathing calmly feels like a luxury. Responsibilities, others' judgments, the fear of disappointing, the need to please, all of this forms an invisible burden we carry without realizing it. But what if I told you that you don't have to keep living this way? Buddhist philosophy offers a path to profound relief, letting go, not from indifference, but from wisdom. Learning not to take everything personally, not to react to every stimulus, to stop seeking approval at every turn. This emotional detachment isn't about giving up, it's about liberation. It's the art of living with a lighter heart and a more present mind. Because when you stop trying to control everything, you discover something powerful. Inner peace doesn't come from the outside, it's born within you. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what we'll explore could mark a before and after in how you live, make decisions and relate to yourself. Like and subscribe for more peaceful wisdom. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss content to help you live lighter, freer, and more mindfully. Your journey to inner peace starts with a single click. Let's grow together. Why do you react to everything? There's an almost automatic impulse that dominates the modern mind. Reacting. The moment someone contradicts you, you feel attacked. A criticism shakes your self-esteem. A silence makes you assume the worst. This emotional hyperreactivity isn't accidental. It's the result of years spent living on autopilot, disconnected from your center, seeking outside what can only be found within. In Buddhism, it's taught that the untrained mind acts like a restless monkey, jumping from thought to thought, clinging to every emotion, turning anything into a reason for distress. You react so much because you don't observe what you feel. You simply experience it as if it were the only truth. But between a stimulus and your reaction, there's a space. And in that space lives your freedom. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Awareness is the miracle that allows us to come home." Coming home means stopping impulsive responses. It means seeing anger when it arises, without feeding it. Seeing sadness, without letting it drag you down. Seeing fear, without letting it control you. Mindfulness, that silent presence that observes without judgment, is the key that transforms reaction into choice. You react because you identify with everything. Your thoughts, your emotions, your wounds. But you are not that wave of anxiety after a conflict. You are not that inner voice telling you you're not enough. You are the ocean that holds all the waves. You are the space where everything passes and nothing stays. Start with small moments. Breathe before responding. Feel without needing to act. Observe without needing to explain. This isn't repression, it's wisdom. It's the decision not to give your peace away to every stimulus that appears. It's reclaiming power over your own energy. And little by little, you'll discover something that will change how you exist in the world. Not everything deserves a response, but you deserve to live in peace. The traps that imprison your mind. There are prisons without bars, yet they limit every step you take. They're invisible, silent, and often you've carried them for years without noticing. The need to please, the desire for control, and perhaps the cruelest, the constant search for external validation. These are mental traps that don't seem dangerous, but they steal your freedom, clarity, and peace. Buddhism teaches that suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from the attachment to what we think should happen. You expect to be understood, to be recognized, for everything to go as planned, and when it doesn't, you feel like you've failed. But you didn't fail. You just confused your desires with reality. One of the most painful traps. Have you ever noticed how much energy you waste trying to control the uncontrollable? Wanting others to think well of you, trying to anticipate every scenario to avoid rejection, holding on to an image that no longer reflects who you truly are. All of this creates an emotional weight that slowly drains your joy for life. Pema Chodron, a Buddhist teacher, says, "The key isn't to fix everything, it's to make peace with what is. And making peace starts with honestly asking yourself, what expectation is keeping you from resting? What thought do you keep repeating that doesn't belong to you? What image of yourself are you clinging to, even if it no longer represents you?" When you identify these inner traps, you don't need to fight them, just observe them, because the mind loses its power when seen with clarity, and instead of reacting from need, you can start responding from awareness. Freeing yourself doesn't always mean doing something new. Sometimes it just means stopping feeding what no longer serves you. True freedom isn't about controlling everything, it's about no longer needing to. It's looking at chaos without losing your center. It's stopping the habit of living as if your worth depends on others. And in that silent detachment, a more authentic, lighter, and deeply free version of you begins to blossom. What changes when you let go? There comes a moment in life when you simply grow tired, not of the world, but of the constant internal struggle, wanting to be enough for everyone, needing to be right, striving to maintain an image that doesn't reflect your truth. It's in that quiet exhaustion that the seed of detachment sprouts. And when that seed grows, everything begins to change. Emotional detachment isn't coldness or disconnection. It's presence without burden. It's looking at someone and no longer demanding they give you what you don't give yourself. It's doing your work with dedication, without tying your worth to the outcome. It's having opinions without needing to impose them. It's being there without clinging. I remember the story of a woman who, after years of feeling responsible for everyone else's emotions, decided to let go, not from anger, but from self-love. She started saying no without guilt, resting without justification, listening to herself more than pleasing others. At first, her world seemed destabilized, as if people didn't know what to do with her newfound peace. But she stood firm, and over time, that peace became her natural state. What's interesting is that when you stop trying to control everything, things flow better, your mind clears, your relationships become more honest, your days feel lighter because you're no longer living from the fear of loss, but from trust that what's meant for you doesn't need to be forced. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from attachment, and that by letting go we find freedom. But this isn't a passive letting go, it's active, conscious, like opening your hand to release what can't be contained, like understanding that nothing and no one can guarantee permanent stability, so you choose to find it within. When you detach, something profound happens. You no longer need everything to be okay to be at peace, because your peace no longer depends on external conditions. And in that state, you don't just free yourself, you give others permission to be themselves too. That's where a truer, more authentic, lighter life begins. A mental shift that liberates. Sometimes what you need isn't a new solution, but a new way of seeing. A subtle shift in perception can break years of conditioning, because it's not the facts themselves that imprison you, but the story your mind builds around them. And when that narrative changes, everything transforms, even if nothing external has moved. Buddhism invites us to train a free mind, free from automatic judgments, free from rigid expectations, free from the need to be right. This doesn't mean you stop thinking, it means you stop blindly believing every thought that arises, because the mind creates, but you choose what to feed. This shift starts with a single question: is what I'm thinking right now actually true? Often you convince yourself that others reject you, that you're not enough, that something terrible will happen if you don't have control. But when you observe these ideas calmly, without fear, you realize many of them are just old reflexes of unresolved insecurities, not realities but interpretations. When you create space in the mind, a new quality emerges: equanimity, that ability to be present without getting trapped. Watch an emotion arise without being swept away. Notice a critical thought without acting from it. Live intensely without clinging to what harms you. Ajahn Chah, a Thai Buddhist master, said, "There's no need to fix the mind, just observe it with love." And that is the quietest revolution. Moving from wanting to control your inner world to simply understanding it, because what's understood transforms on its own. This mental shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a daily training of looking gently, letting go of the unnecessary, returning again and again to the present. But every time you choose to respond instead of react, something in you is freed, a space opens, and in that space, a new way of living breathes, more conscious, lighter, more yours. Let go of the rope of control. There's an invisible thread many hold on to tightly every day, the desire for everything to go as they expect, controlling others' emotions, controlling the future, controlling what isn't said, what isn't shown, what can't be foreseen. But that thread, far from giving you security, is exactly what keeps you tense, tired, trapped. In the Buddhist path, one of the deepest sources of suffering is attachment to control, not because control itself is bad, but because it's an illusion. You think that if everything outside is in order, you'll find peace. But the truth is, peace doesn't come when everything obeys your plans. It comes when you stop needing it to. There's a simple but powerful story. A master gave his disciple a rope and told him to hold it tightly, with all his will. The disciple did. Then the master began pulling the other end harder and harder until the disciple couldn't take it anymore and let go. "What did you feel?" the master asked. pain while holding on, relief when I let go. The master said, that's what you do with your expectations every day. Control comes from fear, fear of losing, fear of failing, fear of being hurt. But what's rarely said is the act of letting go doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. Because when you let go, you're not giving up. You're aligning with the truth of life, that it's impermanent, unpredictable, and profoundly free. Let go of control, not as someone who resigns, but as someone who trusts. Trust your steps, trust your decisions, trust your ability to adapt, because what's meant to be built with you doesn't need to be forced. And in that seemingly simple gesture, a new feeling begins to bloom. Lightness, because you're no longer pushing life, you're walking with it. Not for it to give you security, but for it to teach you to trust even when you don't understand everything. Detach without turning to stone. Detaching isn't about stopping feeling. It's not about hardening your heart or building emotional walls. Sometimes we confuse wisdom with coldness and end up repressing what we should simply observe. But true detachment doesn't come from rejection. It comes from understanding. Understanding that you can love without possessing, help without absorbing, care without carrying the weight. In Buddhist teachings, detachment isn't indifference, it's a deep form of love, free like the sun that warms without clinging, like the tree that gives shade without demanding anything in return. It's the ability to be present, accompany, support without losing yourself in the process. There's a beautiful metaphor. A monk held a teacup in his hands. What happens if I squeeze too hard? He asked. It breaks, but if I hold it gently, I can enjoy it. That's life. That's relationships. That's your emotional well-being. If you grip too tight, you suffer. If you let go completely, you disconnect. But if you hold it with balance, you can feel without being swept away. Sometimes, after so much pain, your mind wants to protect you. It closes your heart, avoids connection, ignores emotion. But that's not peace. It's an anesthesia of the soul. And the path isn't about stopping feeling. It's about learning to feel without being consumed. It's allowing the emotion to arrive, teach you, and leave. Detaching is allowing yourself to love freely, no longer begging for attention or respect, because you give them to yourself. Being able to say, I love you, without fear of losing. Being able to accompany others' suffering without feeling you have to save everyone. Conscious detachment transforms you, not by distancing you from emotion, but by connecting you to it in a wiser way. You stop needing. You start choosing. And that choice made from presence and balance is one of the purest forms of freedom. Less effort, more clarity. There's a subtle but powerful force in doing less. Not less out of laziness, but out of intention. Less noise, less demand, less hurry, so that what truly matters can emerge. In a culture that prizes excess, non-stop productivity, and self-imposed pressure, this principle seems almost revolutionary. Do less, but do it from your center. Buddhism speaks of right effort, one of the Eightfold Path's pillars. It's not about striving endlessly, but acting from awareness, not compulsion. Doing what's necessary with presence, without letting anxiety take the wheel. Because action born from inner emptiness drains you, but action born from clarity nourishes you. Think about how often have you done things just out of fear of disappointing? How many tasks have you taken on half-heartedly, just to fill a space you didn't know how to inhabit? How many times have you had to justify your rest as if stopping were a mistake? And what was left of you in all of that? Less effort isn't inaction, it's alignment. It's looking at your day and asking what is truly essential, what tasks truly reflect who I am and what I want to build. It's understanding that you don't need to be everywhere or for everyone to be enough. It's enough to be truly where you choose to be. A woman once shared that for years her schedule was a constant battle. Do more, perform more, prove more. Until one day, exhausted, she tried something different. For a week, she only did what felt truly necessary, letting go of the rest. At first, the fear of judgment was huge. But then, calm appeared. She discovered that by doing less, her mind was more creative, her body more rested, her relationships more present. There's a deep calm that arises when you stop moving on impulse, when you choose to walk instead of run, when you work in silence without expecting recognition, when you do what you do out of love, not pressure. There, clarity becomes your guide. You can also apply this principle spiritually. You don't need to meditate for an hour if your mind is scattered. Sometimes 5 minutes of mindful breathing, done with presence, are worth more than a distracted hour. The quality of your connection matters more than the quantity of your rituals. At the end of the day, what nourishes you most isn't how much you did, but the quality of your presence while doing it. A conscious gesture, a sincere word, moment of silence. These can have more impact than 100 rushed tasks, and step by step your life becomes an authentic expression of who you are, not an endless to-do list, but a simple, intentional, and deeply yours path. When you let go, you don't lose. You gain. When you let go, you gain space, you gain peace. You gain the possibility of connecting with what truly matters without the noise of everything you were trying to control. Because deep down, what exhausts you most isn't life, it's resisting it. Letting go doesn't mean renouncing your dreams or stopping love. It means releasing what you can't hold on to. It's trusting that life has its rhythm, its wisdom, its cycles, and that you too have the right to live with lightness, presence, and truth. When you let go of fear, you discover trust. When you let go of the need for approval, you find authenticity. When you let go of the constant effort to fit in, you begin to truly inhabit yourself, and in that space, once filled with tension, a new way of being blossoms. Softer, more conscious, more free. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to explain your peace. You don't have to prove your worth. You just have to be, to exist, to breathe, and allow yourself to live from a lighter place where every step isn't a burden, but an expression of your inner freedom, expression of who you are. Not an endless to-do list, but a simple, intentional, and deeply yours path. Thank you for joining me in this reflection. If this message resonated with you, if it touched you somewhere deep, I invite you to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep sharing content that nourishes the soul. And tell me in the comments, what do you most need to let go of today? What space do you want to open within yourself? Your journey toward a lighter life has already begun, and the first step was letting go. With gratitude, Daily Dharma.